The discussion of today is focused on the construction industry. Actually, we are one of the global leader in the sector, particularly with a specific focus on building materials, cement. And so I'm very, very happy to have with me today Edelio Bermejo. Edelio is the head of innovation of Holcim. Hi, Edelio.
Hi, Alberto.
So, Edelio, I think probably the best way to start for the one who do not know Holcim, because they are not, again, probably so deep into the construction building material sector, just to introduce Holcim and what you guys have been doing, just to have a brief overview in terms of what your company does.
Okay, so thanks. Holcim is a global company acting today in 60 countries. This is roughly 63,000 people working for this company, and a company which is 27 billion Swiss francs net sales. So listed in Switzerland, where the headquarters are located, with the main goal, which is to provide building materials. So I mean by building materials, cement, concrete, aggregates, roofing, mortars. So every kind of cement, mineral product that could be integrated in a building, in a bridge, in infrastructure, in a road. So we're very much a local company. That means that we are multi-global, but acting locally as a local player, using the local resources, using very much the local people. And this is the strength of this network for Holcim. The main challenges, and I will come back to that many times, the main challenge for our industry is to decarbonize our industry. Yeah. The cement industry is very much emitting 7 to 8% of the CO2 emissions. Our role is to decarbonize our operations, but to decarbonize the buildings as well, which means that everything we do, and 85% of our research today is very much dedicated to decarbonization. The second big challenge is circularity, circular economy, how to reuse the old and to build new from the old, which means that every building that has been demolished has to be reused 100%, and it has to be a benefit for our planet because we are using less virgin materials. So in a nutshell, this is the scope of our company.
That's very, very clear. And again, the two challenges that you posed are, again, super relevant. And again, probably I remember certain statistics, and from those statistics and the data, one of the pretty striking data points was that construction industry is probably one of the less innovative among all the others. So I think there is a huge need of innovating. And again, huge need of innovating, that we go back to the topic of our conversation, that is innovation, and specifically open innovation. Again, as we always say, open innovation is not one thing, as multiple tools, multiple models, because innovating typically is moving across different innovation horizon. There is Horizon 1, something a bit more close to the core, and probably something that probably can also extract some results in the short to medium term. And then there is Horizon 2 and Horizon 3, substantially trying to innovate to build up a different version of the current company, or actually a new company at all, because we know that given we are in the age of disruption, and again, corporates need to reinvent themselves probably in not so long a time span. And so again, would be interesting to go through the approach to innovation that Holcim has been adopting since a while, actually, because we are being recognized as particularly active and particularly performing on that. And maybe also it will be beneficial to get a sense of what different tools, ranging from investments, partnering, acceleration, others you guys have been using to work with the world of startups and to import, adopt, deploy innovation from outside.
Yes. And before jumping into the Openinnovation, I would like just to remind that Openinnovation is part of our innovation, but this is not 100% of what we're doing. We have 3 legs in our innovation strategy. The first one is the R&D that we do ourselves, which is the main part of this innovation. And you're right, this is a quite conservative business. We're in an industry where moving the norms, moving the codes, it's something which is taking time. So that's why we're building all these R&D, internal R&D. The second pillar is very much about the fundamental research that the academics are doing for us. And the third one is the Openinnovation. And that's becoming a bigger and bigger element of our innovation for many reasons. The first one is that we're bringing something from outside. So we're very much inspired by the external partners. And in the external partners, we have the customers, obviously, and the suppliers, which is not that obvious when we're discussing about Openinnovation, because quite often we're thinking about, the startups, the influencers, etc. But we're doing more and more Openinnovation with our customers and with our suppliers. That's something extremely important. We have the academic as well, but that's my point here, is that this Openinnovation as a partnership is by far more valuable than just collaborating with a startup. That's my first point. The second point is, obviously, everything we do today with these partnerships has to be scalable. Just to give you some order of magnitude, we are in a business where 1 kilogram of our product, 1 kilogram of concrete, is costing 3 cents of euro. That's very, very cheap, which is the result of the success of concrete, because you have cement everywhere in the world, because you have in the planet, you have limestone and sand everywhere in the world, which is making cement very, very cost efficient. But the point that is so cost efficient means as well that the cost itself is very, very low. So any kind of innovation we need to implement has to be scalable, cheap, and with a time to market and a route to market as simple as possible, because the route to market in our business is quite simple. You're just producing a product and you're selling that to your customer. The angle that we have adopted for the Openinnovation is to think outside of the box, not because our engineers are stupid, not at all, but just because there are so many brains outside our company. We need to leverage all these brains, which is in fact a cheap innovation for us. And our effort has been very much to focus on the key topics for us, the ones that are strategic. Again, when we're investing in startup, this is not for financial speculation. This is because we need this angle, this topic to be covered. And we think that outside our box, we can find the brains that could provide these sustainable solutions. That's why the criteria that we're selecting, as I said before, are very much about sustainability, circularity. That's new areas that are very much nurtured, very much fed by additional people from outside, which is internally increasing the internal ID generation as well, because having this connection with these people is creating new ideas inside. Mm-hmm. That's why transforming the way we work with people from outside changing the way we work inside, and even increasing the agility and the speed of execution in our internal processes is very much thanks to the Openinnovation.
Yeah. And which tools are you using among all the different ones that are currently used by large corporations?
Yeah, so we have initially in our Holcim Innovation Center located in Lyon, we have our own tools to watch, to scout the different solutions and ideas that could come from outside. So we're very much watching the different startups and academics that could become a startup. We have more than 500 startups today in our radar. And we are organizing these scouting and structuring this scouting to become a startup opportunity with two ways, with two levers. The first one is the Holcim MAQER, that's the venture capital, the venture clienting, and we have the accelerator. And the accelerator, I will start by that one, and then I will come back later on with the Holcim MAQER. The accelerator is very simple. We're scouting through an accelerator program. We're scouting startups on a very specific domain. It cannot be too broad, otherwise we have too many startups and then it's becoming a nightmare. But we are selecting a topic, very, very simple, very precise. This year, the accelerator is focusing on the circular economy, which means that every kind of startup that has a solution, can be a solution, a product, a technology related to circular economy can apply. And then for 6 months, we are selecting the startups all over the world. So we have internally in Holcim, we have teams for North America, Latin America, Africa, Europe, and Asia Pacific. We have teams detecting and looking at the startups that have applied for our accelerator. Then we make a selection, and at the end we have 50, and then we have 12, and we select the 12 best startups, and then we give them the ecosystem to fly. That means that for 6 months after the selection, with the 12 startups, we provide them the labs, the time of engineers, even the capability to do an industrial trial. And in our business, if you have a magic concrete, to make a real concrete in industrial size, that means that you need a batching plant for concrete. That's huge machine. That's a huge plant. So it's not that obvious for these startups to have this access. So we're providing of that for 6 months and for free. The beauty of the startup is that we are collaborating with companies. This time for the circular economy, we decided to partner with Amazon, with Bloomberg, with Suez, the French company, with Acciona, the Spanish company, with the Europe Business School, with Cleantech, etc., etc. So we selected a number, less than 8 companies that are partnering with us and which have the same interest than us to find new solutions on the specific topic, which is this year, the circular economy. And once we have that, at the very, very end, and for this accelerator ongoing that will be in January, we have a demo day where all the partners are coming, and you can imagine Bloomberg and Amazon. So that will give a lot of visibility to the startups. And we organize a demo day. We invite venture capitals. They are coming to our premises here in Lyon, and they select and they invest. And for these startups, that's a fantastic opportunity. We are partnering as well with different high-level partnerships. Just to give you one example, last week, the European Innovation Council, so the European Commission, was organizing their demo days here in our premises. And we have been listening to the startups that were selected by the European Innovation Council, which is for the EIC, the European Innovation Council, an opportunity to have a view from the expert, one of the experts in this industry. And at the same time, for us to detect new companies that were not in our radar. And then that's kind of collaboration which works very well. Another high-level partnerships that we have is with the GCCA, the Global Cement and Concrete Association. So we have organized, and I'm one of the leader of this, we have organized a kind of accelerator for the Cement and Concrete Association, which is called Innovandi. And this is an open innovation program, same principle than our accelerator, but with a higher dimension, which is with the global industry around it. And then here and there, we partner with the Solar Impulse Foundation, we are, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, the partnership is the new way of collaboration.
A quick question about this accelerator program. Which is the typical target? Is early stage companies? Which stage of company are you particularly looking at?
TRL 5 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And we sometimes is even less than that, but the rationale is extremely interesting for us. The strategic rationale can be very much interesting, but it's traditionally 5 to 7, something like that.
Okay. And you do not invest financially into this company. You just provide them the structure.
I'm coming to that. The accelerator is not investing into that. The accelerator, no,
yes,
no. But the Holcim MAQER, which is the venture capital and the venture clienting, this one is investing with very, very specific criteria. So first, the topic. So if the investment field, we are primarily investing in sustainable and transformative building. So that means that something which is in our field. We are not investing in companies which are absolutely not in our strategic radar. The second on the investment stage is Series A or seed stage. A ticket that could be €500,000 to 5 million euros. Some exception on potential Series B, but not that many. So very much on that size of ticket, €500,000 to 5 million. And the target share is 5 to 20% equity. We don't want to be a majority in the shareholding, because the risk is that we lose the agility of the startup, we kill the startup. So we're really much focused on being 5 to 20% equity. Then the region, we're focusing obviously on regions where we are very much present. So Europe, North America, Latin America. And then on the portfolio management, so we have today roughly 14 to 15 startups where we have invested in the last in the last 4 years. That's something which is a learning curve for us, because not all of them, to be honest, are a success, and we need to admit that they're not all a success, and we need to prepare our management that first, we need to decide very quickly, and second, not all of them will be a success. Just to give you one rule that we have with our executive committee is they have 48 hours to decide on an investment. So once the committee of startup has decided for a ticket in a company, then we propose that to our executive committee, and they have 48 hours to say no or ask a question. And if there's no answer in the 48 hours, we make the decision to go for it. So which is as well giving some sense of agility to our internal organization. Everyone in our organization can bring a startup to this committee saying, hey guys, I've seen that. That should make sense, provided that the criteria that I mentioned before are fulfilled. Strategic rationale, ticket below 5 million, equity below 20%, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you mentioned that Holcim MAQER is both a CVC and a venture client. So I have two questions for you. Number one is, I assume that you have the deal flow coming out from the accelerator, and technically speaking, some of them might be potentially a target for investment, but assume there is no commitment to invest in any of them, because they need to, again, if you see something valuable based on the criteria you just say, you invest. If not, nothing will happen. And then I assume that some of them might be the target for partnership that do not require an investment, or maybe you can also partner with startups and scale-up that you find elsewhere, right? As well, you can invest in something that's coming up from different deal flow that are not the one from the accelerator. Am I correct?
Yes, fully correct. And that's something that very much important in the way we interact and the way we invest is that first we interact. And that means that sometimes we're just discussing, we're just testing the product, they test the product in the real size. Don't forget what I said at the beginning. Scalability is absolutely key for us. Having a fantastic idea, that's great, but we need to think big immediately. Even if we start small, but we need to think that we will be producing that product in million tons. As I said before, we are very large company producing a product which is sold at a very low price, but sold in millions of tons. So that's why scalability is very much important. And that's something that we test at the beginning. And there's no investment before testing, which means that for some startups, we can discuss, test, collaborate for 6 months, a year, and we invest later on.
Okay. That's interesting. And I think, again, scalability obviously is the rationale behind any venture capital investments, because, again, nobody's going after small things. But I understand, I hear you when you're saying that, again, when you're looking for potentially adoption in an industry that have a very low margins and large volumes, obviously that is becoming an imperative for that might be driving your line of action, and totally clear. Can you make some examples of startup you have partnered with, meaning venture client, or some startup you are invested into that you're particularly proud? And also if you have some stories of something that you have maybe some big expectation and those expectations, as most of the time it happens, were not met.
Yes, I will give you 2 examples. The first one, obviously, I will name it. The second one, I will not name the company. That's more complex, obviously. But the first one is, that's a French company called Nanolike, and they're selling sensors, which are external sensors to define the level of inventory of your silo. So, we're selling a powder, which is cement. This powder is stored in a silo, and from the silo, the customer is extracting the cement, and the customer has to know what is the level inventory of the silo. And till now, solutions were putting some radars or whatever sensors in the silo. And here, this company came with a very, very interesting solution, which is a sensor on one of the 4 legs of the silo, outside the silo, not inside. Then by having this sensor outside, and by the deformation of the leg, deformation linked to the weight of the silo, they were able to define what is the level inventory of the silo. Fantastic. So the idea was brilliant. No dust coming to the sensor, no problem of maintenance, a fantastic accuracy of the solution, etc. And then we started with this company, and we started implementing that in Greece, 30 silos, and that. Now, today, we are more than 1,000 silos equipped with this technology. The technology is cheap, very robust, very easy to implement, because the customer himself is plugging the sensor on one of the legs of the silo, etc., etc. So today, it's sold, obviously, in Holcim. They are now extrapolating that and selling that to our competitors. And we invested in this company at an early stage, but again, as I repeat, after testing that in 1, 2, 3 different geographies, and we checked that it worked. The example
you just stopping on that one because it's super interesting. So technically speaking, your process is you find an interesting startups, might come from out your accelerator or from elsewhere. You typically test it through the venture client, substantially develop a pilot. then if you see there is some adoption, you invest into. So that is the typical process. Okay.
Correct, fully correct. And by the way, this one came through the collaboration that we had with the European Innovation Council, the European Commission. So it came from these kinds of partnerships, and then that's
so
that's
the
why
flow is the European, the EIC one. That is
exactly. It came from there. The example that doesn't work that much today is it's a technology which is a bit too much sophisticated for the kind of operations that we're managing. You know, we're selling aggregates, we're selling cement, we have huge equipments that have to be robust 24/7. And I insist on that. The maintenance and the efficiency of the equipment has to be sufficiently robust to manage thousands, millions of tons. And the technology we tested, and we're still improving that one, it's in the lab fantastic, in the pilot scale great, but as soon as we move into something which is the daily operation with massive volumes going through the equipment, we see that there are some deficiencies, some reliability issues which are linked to the fact that the product or the equipment itself is not robust enough to manage and to deal with the huge quantities. That's why, again,
I think the dust and sand did not work so much with innovation. It's something that I experienced. I went to the Burning Man this year in the Nevada desert, and honestly, despite being the place where the Silicon Valley community meet up, there is not so much technology. And the obvious answer is difficult to deploy a lot of technology in the middle of the desert with all this sand. I think it's complicated. So, that's
exactly. And something else which is very, very much important beyond the size and the fact that they will be using a lot of volumes is the fact that at the beginning in our businesses, the margins are low. So then quite often the burn rate of the startup, if it's too high, we're killing the startup even before flying. So that's why the startup dealing with us has to consider that, wow, there will be some time to test and retest. And then the fundraising prior to our collaboration has to be big enough to support the 1 or 2 years testing before investing. So 2 years, I'm exaggerating, but 1 year, this is the average order of magnitude of collaboration with us before investing in the company. And then the investment can be significant from our side. So, but the point is that my point here is that the startup has to be patient enough and to demonstrate that scalability, it's there.
And so we were discussing about also an example of collaboration didn't work out. Is this one substantially, or you have some specific?
Yes, no, this one. Yes, we don't have that many that didn't work. We still have significant number of companies that are in this proof of concept phase and our scalability phase, and we have successes. So that's I think the 3 categories that we have today. And as I said at the beginning, we need to admit that some will fail. It has to be clear.
That's part of the game. But probably if I have to reward, in the world of venture capital, there is a period of time that is called the valley of death, because sometimes it's something between when you start and sometimes we are able to scale up. So probably in your industry it will be called the valley of death and concrete, meaning that there is probably you put an extra layer of a complication that is the extra testing that is the required to see if the technology works in the real dusty world. And that's probably will add an extra layer of complication for startup to succeed over here.
Which is true for the equipment, but that not necessarily true for the solutions. Some digital solutions can be implemented in very
digital is easier again. It's easier to be a digital entrepreneur than a hardcore entrepreneur. That is the part that is more complicated. To conclude our super interesting conversation, again, if I should ask you, can you give me 1-2 tips to your colleagues? Again, what you would say, what you have learned across the years, we would like to share something that you see particularly as a good practice and something you see that you thought it was a good practice, at the end it was not.
Yeah. Again, the best practice would be test, and make sure that this is a rational strategic investment. It has to be at the core of the strategy of the company. So the startup has to bring something which is absolutely core. Otherwise, the risk is that this is diversion, this is dilution, this is having fun, but for something that will not be core in the strategy of the company. That's the first recommendation. The second one is look at it because you are convinced. Don't look at it because the others are convinced. I mean by that we have seen some startups where big players were putting some significant money in it, but these big players had a lot of money, but not necessarily the expertise to judge if it's a good solution or not. And then a lot of people were just following the trend, but don't just follow the trend. Check that the trend is the one which is sticking to your rational strategy.
I think this is important. So not just FOMO, you're missing out, but substantially focus on what really matters strategically for the company.
Correct.
Super interesting conversation, Edelio. Congratulations for all the good job that you guys have been doing. And let's keep the conversation channel open, because I assume that in a few months, you have probably some more tips to share, because again, we are learning every day something new. We are making mistakes, and then I think that's a lot to be learned, a lot to be done wrongly, and a lot to be probably to help others not follow the same route that you've done, or maybe to fast track something that we've seen that really works. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alberto. My pleasure.